Welcome to New York City, a place full of amazing architecture, wonderful people, and a deeply rooted culture. But most importantly of all, rampant and constant violent crime. Today we follow the stories of Peter Parker and Miles Morales, who are attempting to stop that crime while dressed as red spiders. Let us begin. This story starts 2 years ago when a father tells his son how much he loves him right before inserting him into a black goo blob that takes over his body. But more on that later. Present day now, and we see Miles sitting in class. What a cool guy. Look at how much fun he's having. Peter violently busts the door open and we learn that he's now a teacher. He starts talking about science or whatever, and Miles suddenly gets up to go to the bathroom. He comes back and asks Peter for help. Just a teacher helping a student in the bathroom. Nothing weird about that. We quickly find out that Miles' bathroom problem wasn't a bathroom problem at all, but in fact a giant sandstorm in the middle of New York City. I guess we all have our priorities. Once we get to the middle of the sandstorm, we find out that the cause of it is a rather large man made of sand, or a Sandman for short. Billions of dollars worth of property damage later, we give him a little shower and he disintegrates. Not to be outdone, however, the Sandman reappears magically and starts terrorizing the city again. Peter says a cool line,
"Class is back in session."
And we take the Sandman down again with a giant beam of electricity. Turns out, Sandman was this guy, Marco. Marco gets put in a giant glass container and the city is safe again for about 3 minutes. Enter the jungle where we meet the story's main antagonist, this guy with a terrible head of hair. Just kidding, he gets his neck snapped with one hand by the real antagonist of the story, Kraven, who is coming to New York to find someone of equal strength to battle, because of course he is. Cheeky tap on the shoulder from this guy, and my day is made. Time to go stop some crime, but first, a quick pit stop to save this guy who is stuck in sand like a loser. I have to say, the reaction time of these bad guys is quite impressive. I was only standing right in front of him for about 5 seconds before he started shooting. After taking out a few thugs, Peter and Miles head back to the school where Peter gets fired from his job, which is quite harsh. All he did was leave the students during a citywide emergency, but I digress. I see these kids jamming out on the football field. It's things like this that bring so much positivity to the world during such hard times. I then try to attack them because I hate positivity, kids, and music. Unfortunately, my attacks fall flat because you can't attack civilians in this game, which is probably a good move by the developers. After stopping a rooftop shootout, because that's the thing, Peter gets home to see his on-again, off-again girlfriend, MJ. We see that Peter is past due on his mortgage payments, which is unfortunate because being a literal superhero is apparently not enough. Here you see Peter throwing out an apple and bananas. This game needs to be cancelled because wasting food is no laughing matter. Flashback of Peter punching a hole in the wall, and let's get back to the story. Our lifelong friend Harry, who you might remember from being put in goo in the opening scene, shows up to our house. And Peter is very excited because he hasn't seen Harry in years due to him being in Europe. Or at least, that's the story he gave, because in reality, he was being treated for a rare and deadly disease. What an epic prank. We start riding bikes because this is the riveting gameplay we need, and I crash into a fence due to my incompetence. We decide to go to our old high school to relive our glory days, and like any good law-abiding citizen, we break in. We shoot some hoops, find out that Harry's mother died, and the mission ends. Now we see Kraven making his way to New York looking as psychotic as ever. But before we continue with that, let's go watch Miles have a conversation with his mom about how she is dating somebody. Yucky, the only dates I enjoy are the dried fruit that are both delicious and nutritious. I am lonely. We discover one of the coolest additions to Spider-Man 2, and that's the wind tunnels. Peter and Miles make their way to a raft to supervise the transport of a prisoner, and that prisoner is Scorpion. He sounds like he is an absolute blast to hang out with. Also joining the party today is Martin Lee, better known as the guy who killed Miles' dad. You remember from the first game? If you don't remember, that's unfortunate because I will not be taking the time to explain. Miles is very clearly shaken up, which is completely understandable. He is literally seeing his father's killer for the first time since that traumatic event. Look at how funny this dance is. Of course, the boats get attacked by drones that appear out of nowhere. This woman backflips off a jet ski and onto the boat. She follows that up by destroying a large metal pole that has fallen in front of her. Highly unnecessary, but very impressive. Color me terrified. Terrified no longer. Kraven's killer crew, also referred to as the KKK, blast the boat with a bunch of giant spears. These pierce the boat and cause it to flood. Miles smoothly makes his way through the boat looking for any other people to save. Someone yells to us from the other side of this door saying that Scorpion threw him in there. However, once we get the door open, we see that it was Scorpion the whole time. Silly me. Scorpion escapes, but not before injecting Miles with a substance that makes him have medium to severe hallucinations. After holding his breath for about 6 minutes, Miles gets out of the water. He sees Martin Lee is about to drown in the boat and he has to make a decision. He goes to save Lee, but has some sort of uber seizure in the process. Kraven's crew are then able to grab the prisoner. One of the soldiers screams, "You cannot escape!" I proceed to kill them all and escape. The drone that was carrying Lee crashes onto the boat. How embarrassing. Many boots to the face later, Kraven shows up and quickscopes the boat. It was such a good shot, he literally set water on fire. What a pro gamer. Of course, Martin Lee breaks out of his cage, and after catching up with a little bit of small talk, Lee gets caught by Kraven's rope and they both get away. Peter comes in with the emotional support, followed by a friendly fist bump, and we're back on track. Now we watch Miles stop crime like a boss. I genuinely can't say enough about the combat in this game. It is truly very fun and fluid. I then spend the next 2 minutes trying to take a picture of a lady who is waiting in a bus stop. If this were the real New York City and someone in a purple spider costume tries to take a picture of a lady waiting in a bus stop for many minutes, he would definitely get aggressively beat up. 0 out of 10 for immersion. This game is terrible. Now we're back to stopping crime. I get burned to a crisp. Miles is currently feeling uneasy due to Martin Lee's escape, so he decides to go see a family member. And of course, nothing says comforting like your ex-murderous supervillain uncle who is now retired due to being on probation. Who would have thought that a curfew and a few court dates would take down a villain? Regardless, he mentions that there are still old pieces of equipment around the city and I need to find them. The puzzle to access the gear was completed easily thanks to my superior intellect. And we get access to the gear. Thanks, Uncle Aaron. I see some kids at the local basketball court and I decide to go take a look. I get challenged to a one-on-one and I run away instantly to save them the humiliation. I walk in the same direction as this lady, but I run away as this is an awkward situation and I don't know how to handle it. And we're back as Peter. Harry tells us to come see him and that he's excited to show us what he's been working on. We then slingshot our way across the city, as I can't think of a more convenient method of transportation. We find out that Harry was working on the Emily May Foundation, a non-profit organization named after Emily, Harry's late mom, and Aunt May, Peter's late aunt. Their mission is, of course, to heal the world. This will of course be done with the help of bee drones. Just kidding, the bee drones will definitely invade us. Harry tells us to walk around a bit and explore, so I go see this lady who's working on a bicycle. I ask her if I can use it, and she tells me no. I then walk away, having had my day completely ruined. To add salt to the wound, I have a run-in with this random guy who walks around me because he thinks he's better than me. I then block his path because I am petty, and he proceeds to walk through me, proving that he is indeed better than me. Peter goes to work on his flirting game,
cool fish,
and we go find Harry who is casually chilling on a particle accelerator. What a flex. He brings me to meet a Dr. Foster who shows me the technology they use to genetically modify crops to thrive in different climates. I succeed and Dr. Foster tells me that I'm a smart boy. Harry then brings me to an office where he asks me if I'll come work with him to save the world. I say yes and there's a big celebration in my honor. Now we can go get drunk and fight homeless people. Thank you for watching the video. Feel free to tune in next time for more unfunny jokes and mediocre gaming content.